The woman who could become the first African-American woman to lead the Department of Justice is facing lawmakers on Capitol Hill today.
That's right. And early on, she put her plan into clear focus. She wants to take on terrorism and focus on foreign cyber attacks to strengthen relations with the police and with Congress. To talk about that now, we're joined by our congressional correspondent, Nancy Cordes. So, Nancy, what was it like in that hearing?
Hi, Vlad. Hi, Gigi. Well, it was interesting because it's sort of, first of all, a test of her stamina. This hearing got underway around 10 a.m. Eastern, and it's probably going to go to about dinner time. But it was surprisingly cordial in that hearing, especially when you consider the fact that this is the first of the president's big cabinet nominees who has to get confirmed by a Republican-led Senate. And the reason it's cordial is because Republicans don't really have any concerns about her background or her credentials. She's obviously very well qualified for this job. What they are concerned about, and don't make any mistake about this hearing being sunshine and light. I mean, there still are some very tough questions, but they go to the fact that they really do not like her predecessor, Eric Holder, who holds the job now. They feel that he's been combative with Congress. They even held him in contempt at one point because they weren't getting the documents they want. So most of the questions have been about how she will be a different attorney general, whether she'll be willing to stand up to the president when she feels that he's gone too far, and specifically whether she thinks that the president did go too far legally when he issued his executive orders on immigration. She didn't make them too happy with that. She said that she had looked at the legal justification and that it looked reasonable. But other than that, she's saying exactly what they want her to say, which is that she's going to consult with Congress whenever possible, whenever they have concerns. And nothing goes over better here on Capitol Hill than flattery.
Yeah, you know, Nancy, to your point, Senator John Cornyn from Texas asked her how she was different from Eric Holder. We have a soundbite from that. Let's play it for our viewers.
Attorney General Holder's record is heavy on our minds now, and I agree with the chairman about his concerns when the Attorney General refers to himself as the president's wingman, suggesting that he does not exercise independent legal judgment as the chief law enforcement officer for the country. You wouldn't consider yourself to be a political arm of the White House as Attorney General, would you?
No, Senator, that would be a totally inappropriate view of the position of Attorney General. Which you'd be willing to tell your friends no, if in your judgment the law required that. Sir, I think that I have to be willing to tell not just my friends and acquaintances, but colleagues no, if the law requires it.
And that would be include the President of the United States.
I think that the obligation of the Attorney General is to, when presented with matters by the President, to provide a full, thorough, independent, substantive legal analysis and give the President the best independent judgment that there is. And that may be a judgment that says that there is a legal framework for certain actions, and it may be a judgment that says that there is not a legal framework for certain actions.
Now, Nancy, we have to ask you, some Republicans have said they think Eric Holder is more faithful to the Constitution than, more faithful to the White House than to the Constitution. Loretta Lynch says she will stand up to the administration. But given what we know about her, does it seem that that's likely?
Well, you know, she set out right in her opening statement in about the first minute that the Constitution is going to be her lodestar. So she says she's going to take the Constitution very seriously and that it has been the background and backbone of her judicial career. But she also made the point that just because she at times may interpret the Constitution differently than, say, Republicans in Congress, that doesn't mean that she is going outside the law. That just means that they have a difference of opinion. She has been an advisor to Eric Holder as a U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of New York. So she's certainly not going to say anything negative about his tenure as Attorney General, despite the fact that many Republicans have been asking her questions along those lines. But whenever she's been asked, how would you be different than Holder, she just says, I'm going to be Loretta Lynch, and I'm going to run DOJ the way I would do it.
Nancy, just for our viewers, we're looking at some live pictures of Loretta Lynch now at that hearing, but I want to ask you about her 5 big topics on the agenda. She specifically wants to handle cyber attacks. She wants to combat foreign terrorism. She wants to look into the civil rights allegations within Ferguson, the drug war. So how does she said what she plans on doing to do just that?
I think the most interesting thing that she's talked about has been cybersecurity. In fact, in response to one of the questions, she said that she and her fellow prosecutors have been struck by the fact that almost every big case they deal with these days has some element of cyber attack to it. So she says it's an even bigger issue than many people realize, and that it's really going to be at the top of her agenda. And that was really music to the ears of Republicans and Democrats in the committee, because they too share this concern that the U.S. isn't doing enough on the cybersecurity front, and it's likely that we'll see some cybersecurity legislation coming out of Congress in the next few months.
And just real quick before we let you go, Nancy, just so you've been talking to lawmakers. What's your sense? You think that she's going to sail through, or is it going to be tough?
I think she's going to do well. You know, there are a number of Republicans who have already said they like her, they want to support her. If she had really tripped up in these hearings, that would have been a reason for pause, but she's handled herself very coolly and calmly. She's tried to answer their questions with as much specificity as possible without giving everything away, which is always a delicate dance. And don't forget that because Democrats changed the rules of the Senate last year, she only needs to get 51 votes instead of the 60 votes that a nominee would have had to get in the past. So she only needs to get half a dozen Republicans to vote for her in order to be confirmed.
Well, she certainly will have a lot of hurdles to go over if she gets started. Nancy Cordes, thanks for joining us.
Sure thing.